watching the CW11 News at 10.
An underground oil slick for years under homes and businesses in Brooklyn. People living nearby complain chemical vapors have burned their eyes and throats. Now they're pointing a finger at the world's largest oil company. So how did this mess get there, and when will it get cleaned up? That is the subject of tonight's Fact Finders Report, and here's Peter Thorne. Peter.
Katie, it's a poison creek surging with so much spilled oil. At points, the shoreline looks like a dirty bathtub because there's a ring around it from evaporated petroleum. And for years, that oil blob has also been oozing under people's homes. People who now wonder, is it causing cancer too? Exactly what's being pumped out of this pipe, who knows? But we do know you're looking at one of the most polluted bodies of water in the country, and it's right here in New York.
The further up the creek, the dirtier it gets.
Newtown Creek, on the border between Brooklyn and Queens, a notorious cesspool. Fact finders wanted to see for ourselves. So we took this sightseeing cruise to a part of the city you won't find praised in any tourist brochure, because this spot is home to one of the biggest and least talked about oil spills in American history. And it still has not been cleaned up after 50 years.
You can see the shoreline here. Look at the staining on the wall. I mean, that's from the oil that's essentially seeping right through. All that black, that's just pure oil. This is the tip of a huge iceberg of oil. Right now you're looking at literally floating oil product, old weathered oil that seeped through the shoreline into the creek.
And where's it seeping from? From deep underneath these homes, along flag-lined streets in Greenpoint, Brooklyn. 17 million gallons of oil, the result of leaks from refineries in the 40s and 50s. In 1990, Exxon accepted responsibility for much of the spill. But environmentalists complain years later, little cleanup has been done. So, 55 acres of oil-soaked soil remain underground, putting not just the creek in peril.
This is my granddaughter, Brianna.
But possibly people like Dorothy, too.
We've had a bunch of neighbors die of different forms of cancer on this block in the neighborhood. My husband died of cancer.
Sitting at her kitchen table, Dorothy told me for years she gagged on vapors which turned out to be from benzene, a known carcinogen, dangerous fumes linked to the spilled oil bubbling beneath her home.
First it was in my yard, then it was in my basement, then it was in my hall. The hotter it got, the more the odor was. It was just burned your eyes.
Dorothy showed me pictures of the complicated system a state agency set up to trap and remove the toxic vapors.
There's a lot of these chemicals that actually, the smell can just burn your throat. So what does it do if it seeps into your body?
Good question. But nobody can tell her the answer yet, because no health study of residents has ever been completed. One is ongoing now, decades after the spill was discovered.
I blame the companies like ExxonMobil, who are making tremendous amount of money and are not really looking at the people who they're affecting. When will they clean it up?
The houses sit right on top of the plume, so the vapors come practically through their basement and into their house.
For 3 weeks, fact finders pressed Exxon to speak with us on camera to respond to residents' concerns and share the company's position on this controversial issue. Despite repeated requests, they were unable to schedule the time. But not long after Andrew Cuomo, New York's Attorney General, notified Exxon of his intent to sue over the oil spill, the company told the Associated Press, quote, "We are remediating the site. We take our environmental responsibility very seriously, and we are committed to cleaning up the site." Environmental attorney Stan Alpert, a former federal prosecutor, now suing Exxon and other oil companies for damages on behalf of Greenpoint residents.
They will drag it out for as long as possible. They will avoid a full cleanup for as long as possible. The people have to live with the uncertainty, and that's a terrible thing to live with, to go to sleep every night not knowing whether there are toxins in your home.
Again, we have been trying for weeks to speak with someone from Exxon on camera about the situation. So far, they have been unable to schedule the time. Now, if you'd like to see the story again, or if you've got a story for fact finders to look into, just log on to our website, cw11.com/fact Fact finders. A whole lot of oil there.
Under any circumstances, 17 million gallons of oil would be a huge disaster. The notion of it being in the city, it's just inconceivable.
It's unbelievable. And when you put it in perspective, the Exxon Valdez in 1989 that ran aground on the shores of Alaska, that was 11 million gallons. So here in Brooklyn, we got about 50% more than the Exxon Valdez.
Incredible.
Amazing.
And this is the same Exxon that's had record profits last couple of quarters, right?
Yes, I think they'd agree with that as well.
I believe it is.
Thank you, Peter.